council meeting to be held on Tuesday, May 19th, 2020 at 7 p.m.
Oops.
Would you please call the roll?
Alderperson Collins,
Present.
Alderperson Bailey,
Present.
Alderperson Kastner,
Present.
Alderperson Akers,
Present.
Alderperson Sarian.
Present.
Item B is opening prayer. Pastor Rogers.
Well, thank you guys. It's always such an honor and so privileged to be here with you. I would just make a real short mention of our church. We lost two members of our church to the COVID-19, and I lost a very good friend of mine out in California. And I know that we've had more than just those. The two that we lost were, well, one of them was a resident of Greenfield, one was a resident of West Allis. But so while we're opening in prayer, I'd just like to pray for the families that have been directly affected by all of this, and we'll pray for the meeting, and sure do appreciate all of you. So let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you, Lord, for all these great people and these great leaders. Thank you for blessing the city of Greenfield with such incredible leadership and people that really care about our community. Lord, we have suffered the loss of many friends and people that we know, and of course more that we don't know due to this awful pandemic. I pray that you'd be with all the members of the families and be with those that have suffered loss. And then that you would continue to lead and guide our leadership today, Lord, with your great wisdom. God bless our city of Greenfield. God bless all of our leaders, our police and fire department, and God bless our great city. In Jesus' name we pray. Thank you, Father. Amen.
And I'm very, very sorry to hear for the loss of within your community. This, as you know, my aunt passed away in New Orleans when all of this started. This is a big deal, right? Yeah. So, well, let's move on. Item C, Pledge of Allegiance. Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Moving along, item D, I'd entertain a motion to approve the May 5th, 2020 Common Council minutes.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Alderperson Kastner, second, or motion by Kastner, second by Collins. Is that what it was?
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. My battery on my laptop is blinking. This is not good.
Oh boy.
Moving along to item number E, what I'd like to do first is I'd like to go, are there any aldermanic reports, announcements, or citizen commentary this evening?
Plug in your laptop while you're doing.
Just a real quick update with regards to the food bag update that we had the city of Greenfield and its partners hosted the second day of the curbside food bag distribution this past Saturday at the Greenfield Community Center, and almost 1,300 food bags and 700 bottles of juice were distributed to over 420 families. And then the 2-week distribution numbers are approximately 1,875 food bags were distributed to over 625 families. And then the final distribution will be this Saturday, the 23rd, at the Greenfield Community Center from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And Shirley worked it last weekend, and she's working, I know, again this weekend with me too. And if anybody has any questions, to please check the city website for any details with regards to this distribution. And we really need to thank our volunteers and our sponsors, which include the Ridge, Myers, the partners of Parks and Recreation, and of course, Dan Jansen Family Fest. And also there were citizens that were coming by and dropping off food. And then I know also employees here at City Hall were making donations. So it was a fantastic event. A lot of people thanking us. I've had someone in tears thanking for this event. So it was very humbling, and it was so nice that we were able to do this.
Very,
Did-
very necessary.
did
And
we-
I want to thank everyone that's volunteered, and I want to thank Scott and Julie and John and all the folks in their departments that have made this event possible.
Are we still accepting donations for this?
I think that they probably would accept donations. This is the last week of the event, so I think everything will get to a good home. Whether
Okay.
if there's food left over, or, we'll make arrangements to make sure that that happens. I'd like to go down to item I, which is the public hearing. I don't see any citizen commentary. No further announcements, at least at this point. I'd like to go to item I, which is the public hearing on a special use permit for Plato's Closet, a proposed used merchandise store to be located at 5020 South 74th Street, submitted by Shane Heron, doing business as Plato's Closet. This would include adopting a resolution and approving a site plan review for Plato's Closet, an existing business in our community that's moving to a different location.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to share my screen here. Can everyone see this? See the PowerPoint?
Yes.
Yes.
It's running a little slow. There we go. Sorry, a little slow.
I think you killed it, Christy.
Ah, there we go.
There it is.
Overworked it.
So Plato's Closet is proposing to lease a tenant space at the Greenfield Place Shopping Center. It's zoned PUD, which permits used merchandise stores as a special use. They're proposing hours of operation Monday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 9 p.m., Sundays 11 to 6. And they're estimating to employ approximately 10 to 14 people. The site is in good condition. There is a technical parking shortage per the code for the entire property, but that's something, of course, that can be waived by the Common Council. We all know in reality there is no parking shortage at this site. Plan Commission recommended, that's supposed to say last week, at the May 9th Plan Commission meeting, and no objections have been received to date.
Okay, is there anyone online that you can see that might be objecting to this in any way, shape, or form?
Nope, no, the applicant, actually, he just emailed me about 5 minutes ago and said he wouldn't be able to make it. But I see we have one attendee. I'm just not sure.
Right.
I
And
see that.
that's our closed session for later with
Okay.
the alcohol licensing.
Okay, very good. Would anyone like to speak for or against or for informational purposes concerning this item? And we've received no pre-registered comments in any way, shape, or form that I'm aware of.
We have
It's-
not.
Okay,
Relocating from an existing Greenfield.
agreed. I'm just
location.
trying to go through the formality of the public hearing. So,
Yeah.
okay,
Motion to close.
Close the public hearing by Alderperson Kastner. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderperson Akers. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. I'd entertain a motion to adopt the resolution for Plato's Closet that I think has been provided to you and has been more thoroughly explained in this public hearing.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Was that Alderperson Bailey?
Yes.
Motion by Alderperson Bailey. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderperson Kastner. Would you please call?
Alderperson Collins,
Aye.
Alderperson Bailey,
Aye.
Alderperson Kastner,
Aye.
Alderperson Akers,
Aye.
Alderperson Sarian.
Okay, item I-1B is approve a site plan review for Plato's Closet that has previously been described in the public hearing. To entertain a motion to approve that site plan.
Motion to approve.
And that would include any signage waivers that were required, I believe, right, Chrissy?
Second.
Motion made by Kastner, second by Alderperson Akers. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Going through J quickly, the old business, I don't have any appointments this evening. Going through item K, appointments to various committees and commissions. I would entertain a motion to confirm the Greenfield School District appointment to the Park and Recreation Board. The recommendation submitted was Michelle Hagen, hope I pronounced that properly, to be reappointed as representative. And entertain a motion to confirm.
Motion to confirm.
Second.
Motion by Alderperson Kastner, second by Alderperson Akers. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. From the Whitnall School District, they also made an appointment to the Park and Rec Board under item K1, little a, double I. They submitted the recommendation that Nancy Zaborowski be reappointed. I'd entertain a motion to confirm that.
Motion to confirm.
Can I have a question? Is
Oh.
Nancy not retiring?
No.
She's not retiring? I thought she was retiring.
No, she changed her mind.
Oh, okay.
Okay, motion was made and
Second.
One, two.
so who was that again? Did motion by Kastner and second by Collins?
Right.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Under item K1A, three little I's. One member to the Park and Recreation Board for the 5th District for a term to expire May 31st of 2024. It's currently by Troy Tronick. It's currently held by Troy. It sounds like he wants to be reappointed. I'd entertain a motion by the council to reappoint him.
Motion.
By
Second.
Second by Akers. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Under 1B, mayor appointments confirmed by council, 3 members to the Board of Health for terms to expire June 1st of 22. I'd reappoint Alan Owen, Leon Sarian, and Richard Detman, and I'd entertain a motion to confirm those reappointments.
Motion to confirm.
By Alderperson Akers, second by,
I'll second.
I think it was Kastner.
Was it Carl?
He waved his hand first.
I think so.
Okay.
I just saw a flash in that corner, so. But seconded by Kastner, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Item 2 is applications for licenses received to expire on June 30th, 2021. These are, of course, subject to the City of Greenfield ordinances regarding code compliance and payment of all delinquent taxes and charges. That list, I think, is before you. I'd entertain a motion to approve those applications.
So moved.
Second.
Alderperson Akers, second by Alderperson Collins, all in favor.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item 3, discussion of a resolution allowing claim of Shakira Johnson regarding damage to a parked car. This is with our city attorney, Mr. Sajak.
Yep. So just real quickly, a city plow hit Miss Johnson's parked vehicle. She made a claim, as you can see from the items that were in the packet. There, she did have 2 estimates. Recommendation would be to pay the lower of the 2 estimates.
Okay, I would entertain a motion, and the lowest estimate is in the amount of.
I gotta look.
Okay,
2,410.85.
okay, I'd entertain a motion to approve the resolution allowing the claim of Shakira Johnson in the amount of $2,410.85.
10.85.
Motion.
Motion by
Approve.
Alderperson Kastner, is there a second?
Will second.
Second by Alderperson Collins. Would you please call?
Alderperson Collins,
Aye.
Alderperson Bailey,
Aye.
Alderperson Kastner,
Aye.
Alderperson Akers,
Aye.
Alderperson Sarian.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Motion carries unanimously. Item 4 is approving a special use review and site plan review for Eagle Automotive Performance, an existing automotive repair business located at 3320 West Howard Avenue, subject to Planning Commission and staff comments. I'd entertain a motion to approve the special use and site plan review as provided.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Alderperson Kastner, is there a second? This is an Alderperson Collins district.
I will second.
Okay, would you please call?
Alderperson Collins,
Aye.
Alderperson Bailey,
Aye.
Alderperson Kastner,
Aye.
Alderperson Akers,
Aye.
Alderperson Sarian.
Aye.
Okay, items 5, 6, and 7 I'd like to take together. Those are the disbursements, the investments, reinvestments, and the January, February, and March financial statements. I'd entertain a motion to approve those items as provided
So moved.
by Alderperson Bailey. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Alderperson Sarian. Would you please call?
Alderperson Collins.
Aye.
Alderperson Bailey.
Aye.
Alderperson Kastner.
Aye.
Alderperson Akers.
Aye.
Alderperson Sarian.
Aye.
Okay, is just before, we're not going to go into closed session quite yet, but is Kirsten Woolert available?
She's
Yes,
on a
she is on.
Okay, very good. We're going to go back, and I apologize to Kirsten. We just have a couple things to take care of. Going back to Mayor's report under the COVID-19 update, I think we've kept you pretty informed as to what's going on. The big news, I guess, over the last week or so is that the Supreme Court invalidated the Safer at Home order that Governor Evers and Secretary Palm had. When that happened, and it happened at 5 o'clock on I think it was a Wednesday, if I remember properly. Many of us were up until the wee hours of the morning. That include Darren, the other health directors, trying to put something temporarily in place because none of us agreed that just flipping a switch was a good idea. Even the legislature, when they contemplated their lawsuit to invalidate the Safer at Home order, even they talked about a 6-day stay just to get things under control, right? And to figure out what was going on. The legislator indicated that it might be interested in creating some rules and had wanted to exercise the rulemaking authority and all of those things. So what ended up happening late that night, Darren and his health director brethren created a temporary suburban health order, which is set to expire this Thursday at 11:59 p.m. In essence, on this Friday, the city will be open. You could say it's open for business without any health order in place, whether it's federal, state, or local. That does not mean, of course, that the virus went away just because the orders have expired. What it will mean is that the city and every entity that's responsible for providing guidance to businesses and schools and churches, that guidance needs to be provided to make sure that we all act in a safe, responsible, and respectful manner. That begins this Friday. Getting back to the order, there's been a lot of discussion out there that somehow this was a county order. The city of Milwaukee was initially not in the suburban order. It subsequently joined the order a day or two later. Is that right, Darren? I think Darren's online. And we don't know what the city of Milwaukee plan is. Maybe Darren can update that a little bit. We don't know what the city's plan is with regard to the expiration of this order and what their position will be on Friday. I do note that the city of Milwaukee's health director is on leave for a medical condition for elective surgery and is expected to be gone for a week or two. This is big stuff, right? This is after 2 months of being in a house or an apartment or a condo and getting out there in public. I can't emphasize how important it is that businesses and organizations are responsible in how they treat the public. And I can't overemphasize how important it is for the customers and the patrons and the members to be respectful of each other. I understand deeply, and I'm sure Darren does, and I know Brian does, and I think probably all of you do, that there are very polarizing positions taken by some with regard to this. we're in the business of making sure that the city is safe and as healthy as we possibly can. Um, it's going to be an interesting Friday. As the weather warms, I'm not sure that people um, could stay in their houses much longer. Um, I don't know. Um, we can talk for probably hours about statistics and rates and numbers and tests and no tests. That's probably not where we're at anymore. So Friday,
I think what we should talk about is the individual businesses' responsibility to take care of themselves, and their clients. And from what I see out there, that is happening to an extreme level, to a level that I would not imagine. And I think it's their responsibility, and I think our tone and tenor should be on that. And I appreciate every business that mandates you wear a face mask and puts down the X's and every other darn thing that is going on, and washing hands and having extra staff, and they should be commended for that. And I think that is what is going to take us out of this, not having the government dictate that they stay closed and picking winners and losers. I mean, we can't say Walmart's better than a small guy.
or somebody's essential and somebody's not, right?
Yeah,
So, yeah,
that is the tone that we should keep. Is the businesses should be the responsible ones, as well as the individuals that go out in public.
there is certainly and Darren can get into this if he wants to. Guidance is being provided. Guidance is being provided not only through government sources, but it's also being provided by a number of the industry groups that are out there, including the, whether it's the Tavern League or the Restaurant Association, the ISCS,
OSHA, for crying out loud.
Everybody has guidance. There's no shortage of ways to operate your business in a safe and secure way. The other thing I'd point out too is that people aren't going to come into your business if they don't feel safe and secure, right? I know people that won't be going out and going to restaurants soon, or bars, but by the same token, I've heard a number of stories about people that will be. With that being said, I've probably talked to, and I know Darren's talked to way more than me, but I probably talked to 2 or 3 dozen bars, restaurants, retail places, small business owners, big business employees. Some of them, when it came to restaurants and bars, and there was some criticism with the suburban temporary order, because restaurant and bars weren't allowed to reopen. Most of my discussion with those folks indicated that it would take time for them to be able to reopen, that it wasn't as simple as, hey, it's, they just said at 5 we can open, let's do it tonight. They're in the process of trying to bring back employees. They're in the process of buying, or ordering food and supplies, beverages and the rest. Some have indicated that they won't be opening for a couple weeks. So it may not be as bad as, it's this Friday and everything is going green, right? It's this Friday, and I think every business is taking the requisite steps to make sure that their customers feel safe and secure and that they're ready to operate in that fashion, and have the employees and the supplies and the stuff to sell. I haven't had a conversation with any owner of any business or an employee of any business that in any way, shape, or form seemed to be cavalier or irresponsible about it. And that made me feel good, to be honest. So if anyone asks, right, as a matter of record, the current temporary suburban order, health order, expires, you can say at midnight on Thursday, and the city is open for business on Friday. There's a ton of questions that we could ask about, well, what does this mean for churches? What does this mean for school? What does this mean for playgrounds? All of that stuff is out there. I can tell you that the playgrounds in our community are open. Well, what does this mean for Little League? What does this mean for a lot of those decisions are still being vetted. What does it mean for opening City Hall? Some communities open City Hall immediately. Our plan is probably in June, And we're not doing that because we're, protecting our city employees from the virus. What we're trying to do is we're trying to prepare to make sure that the experience in City Hall is as safe for our employees as it is for our guests. And that takes some time. What that timeline specifically is, we will obviously keep you informed, right? What does it mean for events? We went through a little bit of this today. We had a managers meeting earlier in the day for about an hour and a half. It's likely that there won't be a lot of events in June. Everyone, and talking to Darren and talking to a bunch of others that are involved in this, the next 3 to 6 weeks will be a very determinative time as to how this grand experiment is working. I can also say that if in 3 to 6 weeks, while every health director in the county has an obligation to protect the health and safety of its residents by law and statute and job description, some of the communities that are out there have not been very kind and gentle and respectful of the burdens that the health directors have had to make. I'm almost sort of embarrassed that there are some communities out there that have decided in a setting like this that it was important to say, yeah, that's fine, we'll do the order, but our health director shouldn't do that, and we should be open, and getting publicly lambasted by the board or a council is in my opinion, completely inappropriate. These folks have gone beyond the call of duty universally, and ours especially, and they deserve our gratitude and thanks. Hope that made sense. Darren, did you have anything to add? Are you there?
I am here. Yeah, I think everything Mike said was true. Lots of things have changed, obviously, in the last week. I think we're feeling really confident that pools, faith-based communities, fitness clubs, churches, bars and restaurants will all be able to open and open to the best of their abilities. We've made some recommendations, and certainly we know that their livelihood is at stake too, as far as complying with these recommendations. So those were the 4 or 5 organizations that haven't been opened at all yet. So it was very important for us to aggressively reach out to them, starting basically last Thursday morning and telegraphing the next move. Overwhelmingly, I've received positive feedback. Not exactly surprised, but usually in these situations you expect a little bit of both. So I think everybody's ready to go to the best they can, and I think some will wait and will make a measured decision and maybe wait until after Memorial Day weekend. But certainly they have that ability. Important to note, even those businesses that were opened effectively last Thursday, many of them came back to us Thursday or Friday and said, "Hey, I know I can be open, but realistically, I still need to do some prep work." So it was always important for us to give them that opportunity to do what they needed to do and prepare, because for 2 months, many of them were closed with no end in sight. And then just to throw a switch at 5 o'clock on Wednesday seemed a little bit disingenuous as well. So I think we're in a good spot. I just pulled up an email before I jumped on this call, and the state health department has recommended that there is no youth sports and no recreational summer camps this summer until the metrics get a little bit better. So they're looking to get to that next level of being able to have mass gatherings at a higher level. So it looks like a lot of youth sports will either be postponed for another month into July, kind of as we've talked about canceling stuff in the city, or canceled altogether. So it's a very unfortunate thing, and I have 3 small children, or I should say 3 children I'll need to share this news with shortly as well. So you can imagine that they're going to be just as disappointed as adults, and the world we live in. Right now, we have to understand the disease is still occurring. The Supreme Court didn't change the disease in any way, shape, or form, and that message is still very, very important.
I know UWM's College for Kids is all online this summer.
Darren,
Yeah.
Who do we refer the businesses to or groups to for their first line of how do I open or what is a safe practice? Is it your office?
Yeah, I'm happy to take all of those. I have a team of 2 staff that have been kind of handling the quote unquote essential business. And to your point, Carl, I don't like that term any more than you do, but they've been the ones diligently reading and understanding what those guidelines have meant for the last several months. And they're the same ones that have their finger on the pulse. We have a reopen section on our COVID website, on the city website, and it links to things from WEDC, the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation, things that were put together by the state, the Tavern League, M7. So you can choke yourself on guidance. We chose WEDC early because they did a pretty good job on everything. And, it's as good a resource as anything else. So if they have additional questions, we're happy to follow up with them.
We lose the mayor on his laptop.
Video.
No, I don't. Think I'm still here, but
No,
I
I
don't,
hear you.
don't know what happened to my. It did. There we go.
There you go.
It just kind of flickered.
The people at the cloisters or private pool, they'll be open. They'll be able to do their swimming, hopefully then by Friday, correct?
Yeah, pools will be able to start being opened. I'm not sure what shape their pool was in when it was closed, but we'll be aggressively reaching out to them as well this week.
I got several calls and they're anxiously awaiting the order that it said that Greenfield preventing them to do their swimming and their swimming and their aerobics, water aerobics class.
Okay, I know. I heard this afternoon that there are some counties that have been starting their basketball camps during the summer and baseball camps already beginning in June. I'd be curious to see. It's just so y'all understand, this stuff changes. Just like when we went through the elections, you remember that? It was like,
Yes.
1 hour it was this, and Jennifer can attest to this, and the next hour was something else, and the next hour was something else, and then we had to change everything, we had to revise everything. I think the same can be said with regard to how this rollout happens, right? I think that most people will be responsible. I don't think everybody's just going to flip the switch at once. If you may have noticed, I got a haircut the first time in 3 months last week. Went to the person's shop who in her shop wasn't open yet, and she wasn't planning on opening it until the 26th. Because the landlord had decided that they were going to paint the building because they had 2 weeks before the safer at home order expired. There's a lot of stuff like that going on out there all over the place. Getting employees has been a challenge for them. Ordering the kind of PPE, when we say, well, should they wear masks or shouldn't they wear masks? Those things are still very difficult to find. I know you can make them out of scarves and cloth, but that stuff's hard. Hand sanitizer is still at a premium. Those kinds of things that we've been talking about now for months are still a challenge. Supplies are getting better from what I can tell or what I've heard, but they're still probably not where they need to be on a societal wide commercial basis, if that makes sense.
The other thing I noticed is just because a business is open doesn't mean an individual can actually go to it without having ramifications at their workplace. I've heard of people that, well, I'm going to go to the athletic club today because I can. That doesn't mean that their employer wants them back in and they could make them self-quarantine for 14 days. And that's based on the employer, not anything that the government is doing to them, which is outstanding. It's protecting their workplace as well.
I'll just give you a couple examples of what's happening. So there's a well-known coffee shop in New Berlin that's now closed for 2 weeks. And that's probably because someone tested positive, right? And they're quarantining the shop. There are other examples where people end up on social media that may be in the healthcare profession, right? That are in a bar, a foot away from everybody else in a packed bar. And those people, I think, are stopped or reprimanded because they have certain responsibilities to their employer and to the public health and safety. So just because things are open doesn't mean that you won't see things closing. I think you'll see it as and everyone talks about the brush fires and the hot spots and the this and the that, right? I would expect that that if there are problems, that some of these places may be closed and quarantined for a while, and their employees may be as well. I think everyone needs to be responsible again with what the expectations of your employer are and what obligations you have to them. And I think you need to be responsible because there are still high people that are high at risk within our society, usually over an age or with maybe they have an autoimmune system issue, or they have a breathing issue, or they have a heart issue, or they have whatever issues. Those people are still very, very vulnerable to this disease. And they need to take extra precautions. Um, so we'll see, right?
Time will tell.
And we'll tell. I think, everything that I've seen says 3 to 6 weeks, right? We'll know. I also want to point out that I've received a number of emails and calls and messages from people about, well, why doesn't the city of Greenfield have a testing site? We don't, because the supplies and the tests and the capacity is still in relatively short supply. But I will point out that on Chase Avenue, at least on our side of town, down by where the old Kmart is, and I don't know if you remember if that's Lincoln or what the cross street is there, that you can go down there and you can get tested whether you're symptomatic or not. I can tell you that it takes about an hour and 13 minutes to get through it. That there's usually 70 to 80 cars in front of you when you arrive, and that it's a pretty efficient organization. I did that, I think it was yesterday, and everybody said, well, why did you do that? It's because I think like a lot of people, every time you're around somebody, you get worried, right? I did. So it takes 3 to 5 days for the test results. I still haven't received mine. I'm not expecting to test positive, and boy, I sure hope I don't. And it will be a huge relief if I don't. So that's really the option. It's manned by the National Guard. If they're going through 70, 80 cars an hour and they're open up to 10 hours a day, that's probably a lot of tests.
Is that can I ask what test that was? Was that the swab?
That's the one where they, and this is the other thing, the president talked about, oh my God, it was the most uncomfortable thing in my life. You basically just feel like sneezing. It lasts about 10 seconds.
That's not the same one that the president got. The president went all the way up the nose and then around the corner. This one only goes halfway up.
Oh, this one went pretty far in there.
I think all the way.
It didn't get in my cranial cavity. I can tell you that. It didn't. But it was pretty far in there, and it really does make you want to sneeze. And you should point that out. And I know Alderperson Bailey and I think had a conversation about this today. That if you feel the need, or you feel like something's not right, or if you just want to be sure, I think the more testing society, and Darren and I can argue about this all day, whether people that aren't symptomatic should take it, but you can talk about baselines and all that other stuff, right? Just to know what the general spread in the public, right, Darren? So just wanted to point that out as well. So also under Mayor's report this evening is a resolution ratifying the mayoral COVID-19 emergency proclamation number 6, extending the declaration of the city public health emergency. You have that before you. This isn't the public health emergency shutting down stores, restaurants, bars, and all the other stuff. This is the public health emergency that needs to be in place for 3 reasons. That's in your packet, and I don't have it in front of me. But the biggest reason is that this emergency needs to be in place with regard to reimbursement for the emergency. Is that a fair statement, Brian, in a nutshell?
Right. That's the primary reason, is that to the extent that there are going to be federal dollars, having an emergency declaration is going to give us the best chance to make sure that we get some of those, whatever they end up being.
Yeah. Just talked about that a little bit today too, and my battery is really dwindling quickly. So I'm not expecting much from the feds, and I'm not expecting much from the state. If history repeats itself or is any indication, typically we don't get much. Have talked to some mayors and village presidents recently about aggressively trying to um, have a plan, and could be a good plan, but we'll see. It'll certainly be potentially confrontational with one of our governmental units. Alderperson Bailey, did you want to say something? No? Okay. So with that said, I'd entertain a motion to adopt the resolution ratifying emergency proclamation number 6
So moved.
It
by
goes to July 21st.
till July 21st. Was that by Akers and seconded by Sarian?
Marion, yes.
Would you please call?
Yes, just a moment. Alderperson Collins,
Aye.
Alderperson Bailey,
Aye.
Alderperson Kastner,
Aye.
Alderperson Akers,
Aye.
Alderperson Sarian.
Aye.
Thank you all very much. Moving along to, I think the only thing left on the agenda is the closed session item, right, under K8. So before we go into closed session, before we make a motion to go into closed session, in the event that I get cut off, if my computer dies, I'm going to go try to find a cord to to plug it back in. In the event that I can't charge it up enough, the gavel would be passed to Alderperson Kastner to come out of closed session. So if you see me disappear, Alderperson Kastner's in charge as the Common Council President. Is that fair? And did you go to Hawaii? Has that always been there? Why is your hair?
Yes.
Your hair is blowing.
Yes.
It's actually blowing in the wind.
No, it's just disappearing.
She added a fan on the side of her.
Full
Okay.
effect.
Oh.
What else?
Your hair is blowing too, Mayor.
It kind of looks like a bowl cut if you just do it.
Motion to go
No,
into
but it
closed
looks like
session.
it looks like it's moving.
Alderperson Kastner, is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Alderperson Akers. Would you please call? And this is pursuant to the Wisconsin statutes 1985, parent 1, parent B, and F, considering the licensure, social or personal history, or medical information for purposes of issuing a 2021 operating license to the person indicated on the agenda.
Alderperson Collins,
Aye.
Alderperson Bailey,
Aye.
Alderperson Kastner,
Aye.
Alderperson Akers,
Aye.
Alderperson Sarian.
Aye.
We are now officially in closed session at 7:44, and I want to make sure before we start doing this, I want to make sure that all of the stuff with Jennifer and Lisa catches up with us. He catches up with us.
Yep, I have now started the recording again.
Okay, so we are out of closed session. A motion was made by Alderperson. He catches up with us.
Yep, I have now started the recording again.
Okay, so we are out of closed session. A motion was made by Alderperson Akers, second by Sarian. We went out of closed session at 8:00. He catches up with us.
Yep, I have now started the recording again.
Okay, so we are out of closed session. A motion was made by Alderperson Akers, second by Sarian. We went out of closed session at 8:02 p.m. on a unanimous vote. I have to get back to my agenda. Apologize for that. Okay, so item 9 is adjourning, coming out of closed session, and reconvening in open session. We did that at 8:02. Item 10 is the decision regarding issuance of the 2020-2021 operator license to Kirsten M. Woolert. And entertain a motion with regard to license.
I will make a motion to approve.
Motion by Alderperson Bailey to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderperson Sarian. Can we call?
No.
Okay, Alderperson Collins,
You can pass and come back if you want.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Aye.
Alderperson Bailey,
Aye.
Alderperson Kastner,
Aye.
Alderperson Akers,
No.
Alderperson Sarian.
Aye.
Okay, the license, the motion passes 4-1 regarding the issuance of the operator license. They'll be contacting, I think they'll be contacting you tomorrow, Jennifer or Lisa. Okay, unless you want to call her tonight, if you have a phone number, you can do that too. With regard to items for future agenda, there were some things that we talked about today within the managers meeting. We don't know where we are financially yet because the revenue streams, the special revenues lag like a month or two. So like the traffic tickets we get this month, we won't get the money for a month or two, right? Kind of. Same thing with EMS billing, same with park recreation fees, and that's a pretty significant part of our budget.
Yeah.
So we're going through the analysis right now to figure out where we are. We will likely have to talk about these things in June or July, which is right around when the budget process is starting again, right? I can't say that we made it through our audit in very good shape, so we won't have to discuss that. I would encourage you to reach out to Paula in the event that you need to.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. We did make.
We did well. We passed, and everything was great from last year. So, going into this year, we may have some difficult choices to make in the future. The budget, as you know, starts now. As soon as our audit is finished, we start working on next year's. This one's a little strange because the revenue streams are so jagged up, and they trail, right? There's also probably likely going to be issues for future agendas relating to the COVID thing that's going on. Certainly in the event if things go bad, right? And that's when we talk about going bad, we're talking about healthcare capacity being overwhelmed and all those kinds of things, right? And severe outbreaks and, likely we would need to come to this governing body. One of the things that happened, just so you know, with regard to the Supreme Court case, basically the court took away what would appear to be at least 100 years of jurisprudence that these orders are sort of legal. Okay. There's an analogy that's been made and supported by some city attorneys, but vigorously opposed by others, that says that the health orders of a health director are sort of just as invalid as the DHS secretaries were at the state level, where the legislative body is in the position then to create the rules concerning what a health order says. That's an interesting dynamic. I'm hoping that is not an item for a future agenda as you folks decide what a health order should be or shouldn't be and who should be included or who shouldn't be included. I would hope that the guidance of our health folks prevails, but that's legally still up in the air at this point. Is that a statement that Brian left? Oh, there he is. Right? It could very well be that village boards and common councils are going to be legislating or creating the rules with regard to health orders in the future.
Absolutely. In fact, Mequon's mayor did a proclamation that established rules, and the council is going to be taking that up tomorrow night. So you're already seeing some of the communities do it legislatively. So,
what are they actually doing? Expressing more desire to be able to dictate health, in other words, large soda kind of things would be unhealthy?
Yeah, I mean, the concern there obviously was not knowing what was going to happen in Milwaukee County. and the concern that if Milwaukee County was closed, that they would be the first stop on the way up the road, and so they wanted to make sure that they were protecting their residents as best they could. And so the proclamation addresses things like limits the percentage of space that a bar, restaurant, or retail establishment can have, the number of people that you would have inside, those types of things. It's not as
Kind of like the fire department does now.
right, not as stringent as the stay-at-home stuff, but just
Well, they
to put some guidance.
created an order. They created a health order, and they didn't call it one.
It's a proclamation that is a legislative action as opposed to a health order.
That's interesting. Okay.
I-
We may
yeah,
end up
I-
doing that in the,
I-
we may
no.
do it in the future, just so everybody's aware, right? And we'll be talking about those things. The next 3 to 6 weeks matter. Huge. With that being said, I can't think of any other items for future agenda. Can you? Still going through the fireworks thing too, just so you know. We left that the last time.
Some lakes up north are still putting them on.
Yes, they are. They don't have probably 20 or 30,000 people showing up in a park that maybe
No, they go out to the middle of the lake and look at them.
other communities aren't. That's sort of
Yeah.
the. So we're still working through that. We want to see how things are. We want
We're
to
the
take.
only one putting them on. We don't want to be hosting everybody in the state.
We can go up north too.
Yeah.
I don't know. Just
That was very good logic. That's exactly what they're worried about.
yeah.
The West Dallas Farmers Market opened with very strict.
It will be opening up in June.
Yeah, it's supposed to. Yeah. With
It's coming
It's
up.
open now.
I guess there's rules, but that's going to be opening. That will be opening. Little League again, we don't know. So we might have some of these decisions. There have also been some businesses for future agendas with regard to wanting outdoor events, like a lot of them,
Like the farmers market.
and like maybe motor vehicle dealers that are on Layton Avenue.
I wonder who that could be.
So there will be that. There, we're also, for maybe potentially for a future agenda, struggling with do the safe thing that restaurants be able to temporarily, serve in parking lots with distances and tents and those kinds of things. Internally, I think we're being generous with that and trying to take into account all of the things that could potentially go right or wrong. So we're working through some of those issues as well.
We have a cruising problem now too.
Well, there's going to be another cruise on Highway 100 this Saturday, as I understand it.
Yeah, I heard about the one.
Yeah. Well, we heard. So I was at the one on 27th Street, and this is probably for.
I heard that too.
Yeah, well, I was. I'm not going to deny it. And when I was there, there wasn't irresponsible things happening, but in hindsight, looking at whose property is what and where things were, I certainly respect the adjacent property owners. We can talk about that stuff later, right?
Yeah.
I didn't know you were there. I was just talking about the one on Highway 100.
No, there was one on 27th Street, which, just so you all know, that with all the social media stuff coming up, it's like, oh, we're just going to drive up and down the street, right? And then it turns into much more than that. And then it turns into much more than that. And then it turns about getting on other people's property without their permission and doing stuff like that. I was aware that people were going to drive up and down this street, right? Socially distanced in their cars. Was aware that some of them may have wanted to park behind a business. When it got bigger and bigger, that's sometimes when things happen. Same thing with this thing on Highway 100, just so you know, I feel comfortable that law enforcement is aware of what's going on across multiple jurisdictions. I think there's an
Plan on putting barricades out and everything.
well, there's talk about if you're going to do something like this, that it be done responsibly, right? I don't think there will be any tolerance for irresponsible behavior. And that gets back to the COVID opening, right? If we do things responsibly, we don't all, we don't really argue with responsible. If you do things irresponsibly, we do, right? And that seems reasonable. So, all right, with that being said, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn. Sorry, to talk so much at 8:13. I thought this would be a 20-minute meeting. It wasn't.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion by
Second.
Alderperson Kastner, second by Alderperson Akers. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you all. Stay safe. If you have any questions, I know we're adjourned. Forward them to Darren with regard to those health issues, or you can forward them to me, and we'll make sure that they get there. Okay?
All right.
Thank you.
You.
Bye.
Thank you.